All right. Shalom Aleichem, everyone. I know everybody is busy, as Baruch Hashem, we find ourselves right before Pesach, and at a time that might not be the easiest to prepare for Pesach, as we find ourselves in very unprecedented times. I hope that tonight, that when we're looking at the parasha, not only do we learn the Torah has to teach us, but we take those lessons and we take those lessons and we put them into life. I first want to start off by saying that this shiur is L'ilui Nishmat, a dear friend of ours in Or Natan. We had a person, a very fine young man, Eric. Everyone called him Eric. Yitzchak, Eric ben Mazal. He passed away. He's a Shamash Havan Aliyah. Just want to say two things about Eric. I don't know him as well as some other people in the shul knew him, but I knew him well enough. And he would show up Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and it was not easy for him to climb upstairs to the youth minyan on the third floor. Everyone knows it was not easy for him, but he did it. And he climbed those 3 flights. He came up. He sat in our Beit Midrash, in our Knesset, and he helped us participate in the Yamim Tovim and the Yamim Noraim. He was always part of the minyan. He came, he sat in the front, right in front of the Sefer Torah. He knew that it was his seat, and everybody knew that he was there, and you felt his presence. He always had good questions to ask. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to answer all of them. But he was a man that we will not forget. And the shiur should be L'ilui Nishmat Yitzchak Eric ben Mazal. Now, we're holding in Sefer Vayikra. And Sefer Vayikra is a very hard Sefer, like we mentioned last week. And this week we're in Parshat Tzav. In Parshat Tzav, it's not really that much easier. So let's take a look and understand what are we doing in all these parashot. We're bringing korbanot. We're bringing a korban. And last week we explained a little bit how korbanot work for our understanding. Now I want to speak a little bit about what we do today. We don't have korbanot today, right? Yet our Chachamim tell us that we should recite korbanot. More so, we're told to learn korbanot. And the Midrash Tanchuma tells us a very interesting incident that happened. When Hashem destroyed the first Beit HaMikdash, and he sent the Jews to Bavel, he sent them to Babylon, he kicked them out. There was a Navi, Yecheskel ben Buzi, that was with them. The Midrash Tanchuma tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to Yecheskel HaNavi and he told him, these are the laws of how to build the future Beit HaMikdash. And this is how you're going to build it, and these are all the laws. And the question is, why are you telling Yecheskel HaNavi how to build a Beit HaMikdash when there's a long time? The Beit HaMikdash that Hashem is talking to Yecheskel about is not about the Beit HaMikdash Sheni. It's about Beit HaMikdash Shelishi that's going to be in the future. When Mashiach comes, Be'ezat Hashem Bekarov. Why is he telling him now something that's going to be done much later on in the Mikdash HaShishi that's going to be in our days, Be'ezat Hashem? But why does Yecheskel HaNavi have to know it? Why does he have to teach it to the Jewish people? And why do the Jewish people have to learn it? when they're never going to do it. Those people that were in the time of Yehezkel are not learning it, are not doing it. And so our Chachamim teach us a mashal, a parable, to help us understand this. There was once a king who wanted to test his servants to see which one of his ministers was really most loyal to him. So he brought two of his top ministers and told them, listen, there's a bird in the Far East, in the Orient. There's a bird, it's a magical bird. It sings, it has colors, it lights up. I want you to go and try to get that bird. So these two ministers, they're on an all-expense-paid trip, and they go to the Far East. They get there, and they start to research. Where's this bird? They find out where it is. They talk to the people who live in that area, and everybody starts laughing on them. What'd you come here for? There's no way for you to ever get that bird. That bird is so fast. It's so quick. It lives way high up. You're never going to get it. One minister turns to the other and says, listen, I'm not going to waste my time here. If the locals are saying it's impossible, I'm leaving. The other minister said, okay, listen, we came here. Can't run away so quickly. Let's try to figure out if there's something we can do. So he heads to the local, library. It's before the time of Google. And he goes through the books he can find on this bird. And you believe it or not, it's really no way to catch this bird. It's just impossible. No one has ever done it. And there's no tricks or anything that he can figure out in order to catch this bird. And so now both of these ministers return back to their king. And they come back to the king and they say, dear king, we're sorry we could not bring you the bird. And the king said, tell me what happened. And the first minister says, listen, king, when we got there, we found out from the locals that it was impossible to get it. So I stopped and I said, that's it, I'm not going to get it. And the other one said, king, the truth is, I heard the same thing, but I didn't stop there. I went and I researched and I tried figuring out how I can do it. I was poring over the books, over articles, over newspaper journals, whatever it is, I was trying to get to it. But I couldn't and I didn't. And for that, I'm sorry. And the king says, there's nothing to be sorry about. I knew it was impossible to get the bird. I just wanted to see who really loves me more. You see, Rabotai, Chachamim tell us there's no korbanot today. But learn the korbanot, Hashem says. Hashem says, read about it. Because do you really want it? You know, the Hafetz Chaim, he made a kollel in his time for Kohanim to learn the halachot of the Beit HaMikdash, the halachot of korbanot. He says, why he made such a kollel? He said, tomorrow Mashiach's going to come. Everybody says, I want Mashiach, I want Mashiach, I want Mashiach. And then, but are you ready for Mashiach? Did you learn the laws of when Mashiach comes in the Beis HaMikdash, when the Jews are going back to Israel, when there's Tumah v'Tahara? Did anyone actually prepare for it? Did they really try for it? Or not? That is what we're doing with Korbanot. We're also doing the same thing. We have to prepare for it. We have to read it. We have to learn it. We have to say, Hashem, even though we can't actually do it, we really want it. And it's not only with Korbanot. Today, Rabotai, it's time to think, what else are we missing? Beit HaMikdash we're missing. We've been yearning for it for a long time. But now, I'm sure you heard it over and over and over again. We don't even have our Mikdash Me'at, our small little shuls that we have. We don't have. We can't get in them. They're closed for whatever reasons. Whatever's going on in the world. Perhaps we can show Hashem that we're really yearning for that, for the shuls, for our tefillot, for our minyanim, for our learning b'tzibur, and actual people being in an actual place, not me talking in front of a computer screen, you guys watching through a computer screen or through the phone or through the iPad. Baruch Hashem, we have this technology so we can stay connected. But there's nothing like coming and sitting down in front of a table, taking our Sfarim and learning with one another and feeling the presence of one another and bringing down the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah comes down when we're in a place together. Are we yearning for that as well? I'd like to move on to another lesson in this week's parasha that's very, very timely. In this week's parasha, we learn about a mitzvah that's known as Trumat HaDeshen. The mitzvah of Trumat HaDeshen was that every morning, the first avodah, the first service that was done in the temple, in the Beit HaMikdash, was that a Kohen would come and remove some ashes from the Mizbeach and put it on the floor of the courtyard. This wasn't a very chashuv avodah. It wasn't a very special service in the Beit HaMikdash. So, unlike all the other services where there was a raffle every day to find out which Kohanim that were there at the Beit HaMikdash would be doing that avodah, the Trumat HaDeshen would be done by anyone who would want to do it. And how would they do it? They would run up a ramp, and the first Kohen to reach the top of the ramp would take the ashes and do the mitzvah and do the avodah. Now, once it happened that two Kohanim ran up the Mizbeach, and when they ran up the Mizbeach, one Kohen pushed the other Kohen off the Mizbeach. And the one who fell off broke his leg. The Chachamim right there said, this has got to stop. No longer are we going to do this mitzvah of Trumat HaDeshen by people running up a Mizbeach. We're going to do it through the lottery system as well. Now, I don't think that the Kohen who was running up the Mizbeach wanted to hit the other Kohen and break his leg. Nobody thinks that. But what happens is often in our lives is that when we are so excited to do a mitzvah, when we are so excited to go and get something done, we forget about everyone else. We bump people because we're running to do a mitzvah. Har Yisrael Salanter would always bring the example. Person gets up in the morning, 5 o'clock, to go Selihot, and instead of going to Selihot to get mitzvot, he does 100 Averot. How does that happen? He wakes up in the morning, 5 o'clock, and instead of walking out of the house quietly, he is knocking over something. He's turning on the tea kettle loudly. He's knocking the door. He's not thinking about other people. He's running to get to the mitzvah. But it's not enough to run and do a mitzvah. It's more important to understand how you're doing the mitzvah. The Mesilat Yesharim teaches us a person has to weigh his actions. Is going to do this mitzvah the better than what I'm going to do if I'm trying to get it done by running up that ramp to get the ashes? Is that a good thing if I'm knocking down another guy to get it? Obviously not. All the mitzvot in the world are like this. They say a famous story with the Hafetz Chaim. Once, the Rav Meir Shapiro, who's known for the Daf Yomi that he created, the cycle that everyone's learning now, Rav Meir Shapiro wanted to come over to the Hafetz Chaim's house for a Shabbat. He was traveling from Lublin to Radin, and he wanted to come to the Hafetz Chaim's house. So he sent a message to him via telegram. And the Hafetz Chaim said, of course you can come to my house. Then Rav Meir Shapiro sent another letter. And in this letter he said to him, is it possible that when I come to your house, that the men sit on one table and the women sit in a different room on another table? The Hafetz Chaim wrote back. The Hafetz Chaim wrote back and said, my dear friend, I sit every night with my wife at the Shabbat table. I cannot ask her to go away from the Shabbat table and not sit with me at the Shabbat meal. If it doesn't work with you, then I'm sorry, I can't have you over in my house. Remember, Meir Shapiro is an Adam Gadol. Chafetz Chaim is an Adam Gadol. He says, I'm sorry, I can't have you. Because it's not worth it for me to bring you to my house and to have my wife feel bad and my family not sitting together around the table. Sometimes people want to do hesed, all right? So a friend asks him one guy asks another guy to take me to the airport. The guy forgets to ask his wife or tell his wife, I'm going to go to the airport. He takes his friend to the airport. It takes a whole extra hour. Meanwhile, he's driving, so he can't answer the phone or whatever. He's not connected. And his wife doesn't know. And she waits for him. She reheats the dinner back and forth. And people are not thinking. They think they're doing a hesed. At the same time, they're taking away from the people in their house. Rav Pam will tell us, especially when it comes to Pesach, it is a very busy time. And people are trying to keep all the humrot, all the strictencies of how to clean the house, of what to do and everything. And a lot of times, a person gets so busy into this, he forgets to be nice to his family, to be nice to his spouse, nice to his friends, nice to everyone, because he's so overtaken. You know, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, his students were going to bake matzot. It's a famous story, right? The students are going to bake matzot, and they went to the Yisrael Salanter and they said, listen, we're going to bake matzot. We want to know, what's the best chumrah? What's the best way to make matzot? Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, the best way to make matzot is to make sure that when you're there, the ladies who are rolling the dough, most of them are almanot, that you don't scream at them, that you're going slow, you're going fast, come down, take it easy. Don't tell them anything. That's the biggest chumrah. If you can make it out, if you can make it out of there without insulting, without insulting the almanot, then you have the best matzot possible. There's a story that Rav Zilberstein brings down in Alim L'Shabeach. He says over there that once a girl came to Rav Horowitz's house in Bnei Brak. I believe it was in Bnei Brak. It was Yerushalayim Bnei Brak. And he came over him the day before Pesach, day of B'dikat Hametz. She comes into his house and she sees there's no cleaning going around. The house is bread on the table. She's perplexed. So Rav Horowitz tells her, listen, I know you're thinking, what's going on? Where's the Pesach preparations here? But let me tell you something. Me and my wife were not doing so well. We're not feeling so well. And I don't want to make a burden on her and try to clean up like all the strictencies that are brought down. Comes tonight, I'll sweep up the house. I'll put away the hametz. We'll make b'dikat hametz to the basic halacha and not more. Because the main thing is not to get angry. The main thing is not to scream. The main thing is to be nice to the people around us. This is what we learn from Trumat Hadeshin. The mitzvah at Trumat Hadeshin that the Kohanim wanted to do, but they forgot to pay attention to the others. We must pay attention to what we're doing when we're doing mitzvot. Don't think I'm doing a mitzvah, nobody bother me, I can do whatever I want. No, it doesn't work that way. You don't have a license to kill or to bother or to make any nonsense just because you're making a mitzvah. Be working for the king, yes, but it doesn't give you a license to go and bother the whole world. You have to do the mitzvah. You have to know what's the right thing to do, what's not the right thing to do. You don't know? Ask the Chachamim, ask the Rabbanim, ask the rabbis in your community, and they'll tell you and they'll guide you on what's the best way to go about this. In this week's parasha, we have another timely message. The pasuk tells us in the 7th parak in pasuk Yud Zayin, "V'hanotar mibasar hazavah b'yom hashlishi ba'esh yisaref." We have the mitzvah of noter, which is that if something of a korban that you brought up to the mizbeach, if it passed its time, you have to burn that meat. You can't eat it. Certain korbanot is 1 day, 2 days, whatever it is. When the time comes, you have to burn it. The Sefer HaChinuch, in explaining the mitzvah of notar, he says the following: Yesh badavar remez al habitachon b'Hashem yitbarach baruch hu. In this mitzvah, we have an allusion to the mitzvah of trusting Hashem, of bitachon. Shelo ye adam chonek atzmo b'ma'achalo yoter midai. A person shouldn't stifle himself regarding his food very much. Lahatzniyo leyom mahar, storing it away for another day. Bir'oto ki ha'el yitzaveh lechalot basar kodesh mishavra sha'ato. You see that Hashem instructed you to burn the meat. You have the meat, it's for 2 days, eat it those 2 days, after that, you burn it. He didn't want us to have hana from it afterward. You hear what he says here? The Sefer HaChinuch says the mitzvah of notar, one of the reasons is burn it because Hashem has food for you the next day. The same thing with the mun. Remember the mun? Every day fell. Because a person is supposed to believe that every day there's going to be food. If you remember in the beginning of this whole pandemic, there was panic shopping. People were going and buying the store out. And don't forget the toilet paper was very, very hot commodity. And everyone was buying. There was no chickens in the store for days until they finally restocked. I was talking to someone at work, an older woman, and she told me, she said to me, Moshe, there's nothing to worry about. This is America. This is not the third world country. If you think about the time of the Sefer Chinuch, the Sefer Chinuch is written in a time when there was a lot less food available in the world. And yet, they were believing, in the times of the Talmud, times of the Beit HaMikdash, there was no refrigeration, there was no freezer options, and food didn't come by very much, and yet they were tzarich to have emunah. You never thought about this before. When you heard the mitzvah of man, okay, so every day you believe you're going to have more food. So every day, you go to the store and you buy a loaf of bread. Now you understand that it's more than that. It's not just every day I'm going to go and buy something. It's that every day Hashem will provide for me. It's a whole different aspect, a whole different understanding. Hashem will provide for me every single day. Even during a pandemic. Somehow, you're supposed to do what you need to do. You got to go and get food. But you don't have to go all crazy and wait on a 6-hour line outside of Costco to try to get inside to buy whatever the people are buying there. And a person has to have this emunah. They say a beautiful story. Rav Zilberstein brings down that there was once a king that he always came up with ingenious ways to provide to his kingdom. And one time, he made a competition. He called the whole kingdom to the palace, and he said, here you see in front of the palace we have a brook, a body of water. And he said that inside the brook, if you can take a look inside the water, you'll see that I buried a treasure chest. Anyone who can go in and get that treasure chest is theirs to keep. So you know it. Everybody tried. They waited on a line. Everybody jumps into the water. They try to get it. Everybody's trying to go in and get it. And nobody has any luck. No one can get it. No one can get the treasure chest. So one Jew who lived in the kingdom was standing on the side and watching all this time, was watching. And he finally, after everyone finished trying, he came over and he asked the king. He said, "King, let me ask you one question. In order to get this treasure chest, does a person have to get all wet?" And the king started to laugh and he said, "No, you don't have to get wet at all to get that treasure chest." So the Jew said, "Just give me 1 minute." He ran to his house and he got a huge ladder. He brought the ladder and the trees that were overlapping the brook, he put the ladder on one of those trees. He climbed on top, and there, hidden in the branches of the tree, was the treasure chest that was then reflected on the water and the water beneath. Rav Zilberstein tells us that's the truth all the time. We're looking down on earth and we're thinking, how are we going to get food? How are we going to get money? How are we going to get everything? But you're forgetting that the answer is right up on top of you. It's our Father in heaven. You just got to pray to Him. You just got to come to the right address. It's not in the water. It's not on the ground. It's in Shemayim. Person needs to get whatever he needs to get. He needs to pray to Hashem. And now more than ever, you go to stores, sometimes they're out of this, out of that. You need it. You got to daven to Hashem that when you go, there's no line and everything is there ready for you to take. Well, Hashem's hand is not short. Hashem's hand is capable of anything. What an amazing lesson to learn from the mitzvah of burning the meat after its time. That a person should know not to be scared. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our Father, is watching us. And Baruch Hashem, we live in a country that has a bunch of abundance of everything. The store doesn't have it one day, come back the next day, and it will be there. And Hashem will take care of our every need. I want to end off with one more lesson. Again, I want to just say that the shiur is Le'uli Nishmat Yitzchak Eric Ben Mazal. He really, for those who knew him, he really touched us all the time. His presence alone was something that shined up the holiday. You could sit there, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. If he wasn't in there in Minyan, you knew that it wasn't the same. The minute he walked in, there was more action, there was more life, stuff were going on. He should be a Melitz Yosher for all of us. Abutai, I want to end off with one last lesson. In the end of the parasha, the Torah tells us that the Kohanim were commanded that they upetach ol moed tishvu yomam v'layla shivat yamim. This is in the 8th parak, in the pasuk lamed hey. The Kohanim were commanded to sit in front of the Ohel Moed for 7 nights and 7 days. Ushmartem et mishmeret Hashem v'lo tamutu. And you should watch the commandments of Hashem and you shouldn't die. In preparation of the Kohan services, they were told that they have to stay in front of the Ohel Moed. The Hatam Sofer tells us, he explains this pasuk in a very interesting way. Upetach ohel moed tishvu yomam v'layla. You know what that means? He says that every person has to sit and think that I'm in front of the ohel moed. I am in front of the Torah. I'm in front of Hashem right now. And if you sit like that, yomam v'layla, night and day, shivat yamim, every 7 days, every week, every day, ushmatem et mishmeret Hashem, and you make sure that the mitzvah is the focus of your life, velo tamutu, then you will not die without mitzvot, then you will not die without teshuvah, then you will not die a death where there's no continuation. There's no entrance into Olam Haba. You have to be able to put the Torah mitzvot in front of us at all times. That's what the Hatam Sofer learns in this pasuk. That a person has to put upetach ol moed tishvu yomam v'layla. Sit in front of the ol moed night and day. We all know that we have stuff to do in life, but it doesn't mean that the primary in our life is all the other things we do. You can spend 18 hours doing physical stuff, but if in your mind you understand that Torah mitzvot is the primary, then everything else you do is just a preparation in order to do that Torah mitzvot, and all that's counted as mitzvot. Every single step that you do every single day, as long as you're doing it in order to get to doing the mitzvah, that's counted as a mitzvah. Because Rabotai, when we come into the next world, we're coming with what we did in this world. And praiseworthy is the one who's able to come with Torah and mitzvot. There was once a kolol man. That he was diagnosed with a terrible disease. And the doctors told him he has a month to live. He went through the 5 stages of grief until he finally accepted what was going on. And the doctors told him there's an experimental treatment that might give him another six months to a year. But he said, I already resigned to my fate, and I don't want it. His wife begged him and pleaded with him and said, please take it. Please take this experimental treatment. He said, no, I don't want it. His wife and his chavuta were able to convince him to go to see Rav Shach, the great Rav Shach. And Rav Shach told him, I'm not going to convince you one way or the other. I just want to know, are you ready for the next world? The man broke down. He said, no, I don't know if I'm ready. So then he said, so then you have 6 months to a year to prepare, and you don't want to prepare? And of course he took the option. Abutai, it's important for us to understand that we didn't come into this world to play around. We didn't come into this world to be on an iPhone, to be on a Mac, to be on other things. We came to this world for one thing. We came to this world to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm going to end off with a story. It's a story that happened with the great Rosh Yeshiva of Barnovich, Rav Elchanan Wasserman, Zecher Tzadik L'Bracha, may Hashem avenge his blood. Rav Wasserman came to America to collect money right before the war. And while he was in America, he was coming to his former students that moved from Europe to America. One of his students, Nebuch, went off the derech. And that student became a multimillionaire by selling buttons in the garments district. And Rabbi Elchanan went to visit the student who became assimilated in American culture. He came to his factory, and his student, the student saw his Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Elchanan. He came out to greet him. He said, Rabbi Elchanan, please come in. What can I do for you? And Rabbi Elchanan said, listen, my frock, my jacket that I'm wearing, the Rosh Yeshiva's jackets that they wear, the long frock, he tells him, the button came off. I came to your factory to see if you can fix the button. So the guy said, of course we can fix it. But you didn't come from Europe. You didn't come out of your trip to see me at my factory just for the button. He said, no, I did. I came to get the button. He said, please, Rabbi, tell me why you really came. Is it money? Is it that? And he said, no, I came for the button. No, he gave him the button. Rosh Yeshiva left. That whole night, this guy was in his bed, tossing and turning, and he couldn't figure out why his Rosh Yeshiva came. So he calls up the number where the Rosh Yeshiva was staying at. He calls the Rosh Yeshiva there, and he says, please, you got to tell me why you came. He says, if you really want to know, come now to where I am. The guy got up in the middle of the night, came to the Rosh Yeshiva's where he was staying, and he says to Rosh Yeshiva, please tell me why you came. Rosh Yeshiva says, when I told you I came for the button, what did it sound like to you? He says, Rabbi, it sounded ridiculous. Who comes all the way out of the way to a factory, who knows where, just for a button? You can buy it in the stores. You don't have to come to America from Europe for that. So the Rosh Hashiva says, now let me ask you, and why did you come to this world? To sell buttons? Me coming from Europe to get a button for my jacket is ridiculous. But you coming down from Shamayim, who went much further and came down to this world just to sell buttons and not keep Torah and mitzvot, that's okay? The person learned his lesson. And then he became Baal Tshuva again. Rabotai, the lesson speaks very deep. Why did we come down into this world? To follow the news every 5 minutes, what's going on? It surpassed 1 million people died, 1 million people got it. 1 million people shouldn't die. 1 million people caught the disease, and there's 3,000, 300,000, whatever it is we're taken by this disease. The more you're going to read the news, the more I'm going to read the news, the more you're going to read the news, you're just going to see worse things. It's very important that we take these lessons to heart. That we understand what Hashem wants to see is the yearning for the Beit HaMikdash. Hashem wants to see us yearning for the Torah mitzvot that we can't do. That we don't have tefillah. We don't have these things. We don't have prayers that we can do b'tzibur now. We have to show how much we're missing them. How much we're missing the Beit HaMikdash. How much does it really affect us? Or do we like, okay, now I don't have to go to shul, so I can just wake up later and I can daven in 5 minutes. How do you feel it? The next lesson that we learned was the importance of not thinking, oh, I'm doing a mitzvah so I can do anything else. The importance of having bitachon in Hashem, and the importance of remembering why we came down in this world. How much more all important these lessons are during this time. Rabotai, we're about to get disconnected, but before we do, I want to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat HaGadol Shalom, and I want to wish everyone an important getting ready for Pesach, and Be'ezat Hashem, we should see the Geula Bekarov. Be'ezat Hashem, all these words that we said should have been Le'ilui Nishmat, Yitzchak Eric B'mazal, we will never forget him, and may he be in Malat Yosher, and may his neshama go Mehayim L'Hayim Gan Eden, and we should see the Yeshua Bekarov. Rabotai, there is no other answer except Mashiach. We tried socialism, communism, democracy, we tried science, we tried everything. There is no answer except Mashiach. Rabotai, please look at the screen if you have it. They have the next presenters. And I'm wishing everybody a Shabbat Shalom.